All right, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, whatever time it is that you inky savages are joining us for episode number 129 of the PenBoyRoy Pentertainment Podcast. Thank you for joining us. I know we missed last week, and as a result, you were probably very disappointed, but it was a busy week, so we figured, you know what, it's the holiday, so we might as well take a week off. So if anybody was greatly disappointed, come on, I apologize. So
yes, I apologize,
we got a lot of catching up to do. I like the video that you threw up with the taking the blame for it. I like it because it means
you always count me to be taking the fall for anything that you do that regards the podcast, at least negatively.
Right.
So
as long as it's and if I ever need help hiding a body, I know who to call. But before we get started with this week's episode of the Pentertainment Podcast, I just have to go over our sponsorships. I know it's been slow for me in terms of the social media and posting and all that stuff, but I guarantee you after August 16th, everything will be up and running again in full swing. And until then, I do appreciate your continued support by checking out the link in the description to my Gold Spot affiliate link, as this podcast is sponsored by Gold Spot Pens. So check out all your favorite pen requirements and needs over at Gold Spot using the Gold Spot affiliate link, which you guys are here and there doing, so I do really appreciate that. And make sure, as Tom says, make sure you guys check out coupon code ROY at checkout. Type in the word ROY, the letters ROY at checkout.
But it doesn't work on some things.
Right, so there are some exclusions that do apply, but give it a shot anyway, just in case several items in your checkout do apply. You'll actually get that discount. Who knows, right? So check it out.
Who knows?
Also sponsoring this podcast is our friends over at Luxury Brands of America. Luxury Brands of America are distributors in the U.S. for several brands, including Waldmann, Platinum, Colorverse, Nebula, which is owned by Colorverse, and several others I can't think of right now. Noodler's Inc., they also do that one, right? Who else? Joya's a new one that they're doing.
D. Charles.
What else?
The leather, the pen cases. There's just so
and
many.
Also the wipes.
I think just even now, most recently, they started distributing for Endless. The Endless,
they're starting
notebooks.
to. How is that? We'll talk about it after the sponsorship.
Yeah,
we'll talk about
that. Part of this discussion too. So yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. So keep your eyes open for the Endless.
Fine writing.
Right? That's because they're awesome. Hold on. I wanted to make sure there was nothing there. All right. I had a salad earlier, so. Now, I know it's a little bit late, but July 4th just passed. Happy July 4th, belated to everybody. And in recognition of July 4th, if you want to show off your patriotic side for July 4th or continuing after July 4th, get the Stars and Stripes US exclusive ink from Colorverse. It's pretty cool. So it's available in 2 iterations, glistening and non-glistening versions. This gorgeous deep blue ink shows off a red sheen. It also has a white glistening in the glistening version of the ink. So the glistening version... So they both have red sheen, which is great, but the glistening version has like some white speckles in it, right? Is that right?
Yeah, like stars.
Stars.
Like
But they're not actual star-shaped sparkles, right? Because you can't send like star-shaped material
jam up
through
your
the feed
like nobody's business.
Yeah, it would just make things an entire mess. So we wouldn't want that. But it does have sparkles in it if you get the glistening version, and if you don't get the glistening version. Well, either version will have a red sheen, so it's blue and red, which is cool. So check those out at your favorite retailer.
You come in a glistening and non-glistening version. Is that true?
Yes. Place your orders. So, and finally, our third sponsor for the Pentertainment Podcast is my good friend Neil, who owns brlcoffeeco.com. Go to brlcoffeeco.com and check out all the products that they have. Make sure to use coupon code ROY at checkout just to show that his sponsorship money is being well spent. And score yourself an extra discount on all the products. No exclusions applying on all the products on the brlcoffeeco.com website. So please check that out if you're into the bean and mugs and funny stuff. All the merch there is awesome. And also don't forget to pick up your PenBoyRoy Fountain Pen Review Channel t-shirts over at inkjournal.com. The link will be in the description below. So, like I said, we're back. We took a week off. I hope you guys can forgive us. And before we get started with this week's episode, what's up?
A quick note, though. Do you break into when you... Because I didn't watch the last one. Does it break into that disclaimer thingy when you usually do the podcast? When we do this through here?
Yeah.
Like you add that?
I do. I'm doing it right now.
Oh. No, I meant like we did the... Oh, so you're doing it right now. I'm interrupting you. I'm sorry. I'll stay quiet.
Yeah, so before we get started with this week's episode of the podcast... I want to give you guys a quick disclaimer. This podcast is not scripted and therefore will contain potty-mouthed words, both from Tom and me, mostly from me. So be forewarned. You have been warned. Now, on to the podcast.
The PenBoyRoy Pentertainment Podcast. Stay savage.
I'm sorry. I totally screwed that up.
That's all right.
Oh, gosh. It's been a while since we did a podcast. Oh, there's the audience. Thank you.
There's the audience. Thank you. Yeah, it feels like it's been forever since we did a podcast because we took 1 week off. I needed the 1 week off to take care of business, and because of that, it feels like it's been forever.
Yeah,
right.
I feel like like that comment I just made about the whole disclaimer thing. That's like such a newbie sort of thing to do. Like I haven't been doing this for 100 and something episodes.
I know. That's okay though. That's okay. Everybody will understand. So what's new in the world of fountain pens? Because I've been kind of disconnected, as you guys know, as everybody knows, because I have this major exam coming up on August 16th. But I can tell you what's new with me. Mm-hmm. Well, what was new, and I haven't gotten to it yet. But I'm so glad that Bryce sent me one of these bad boys, because I love this pen. This is the
Imagination.
The Waldmann Tango Imagination. So it's all sterling silver. It has like blue colored machining in it. It's really cool. Has a number 5 sized Yovo nib. It's cartridge converter filled. I've been so out of touch these days just because I've been studying so much. Every waking moment I'm studying. But what do you know about this pen other than what we already know?
What we already know is that it's a pretty cool looking sterling silver pen. Mm-hmm. And that it is a North American exclusive, which I don't know if that means a lot to people, but what does mean, I think, a lot is the fact that it's a limited edition of 200 pieces, and it's numbered on the cap ring or on the barrel ring that's there. I forget. I think it's the cap ring.
I don't think
it's right where it says "Made in Germany" underneath that. You should have the.
My gosh, I got to get a loop
very,
to look
very
at this.
Small.
How do you even machine something this small? Hold on, I gotta use my loop and look at what number I have, or I could look at the box. Let's see what the box is.
Put on my spectacles to look at this.
It's number 66, dude. I'm getting old. I can't look at anything anymore.
Did you see my TikTok? Speaking of being disconnected about things, but did you see my TikTok today for Gold Spot?
What's up?
With the it was with the Tango Imagination.
Oh yeah.
Dogs.
Yeah, you can post it too.
My dogs
look,
in the crate.
This is what a pen looks like when it's posted. See, this is called being able to post it. I know that when we were talking about the Super Mega by Monteverde, you were like, oh yeah, it can't be posted and stuff like that. But I'm just going to dispel that once more and check this out. It's posted. If I can't post this, then why is this posted?
I got a separate DM from Drew Brown saying that you are totally right, Tom. It does not post. So I don't know.
But
that might have a little bit of credence for you.
I'm showing you that it's posting. It is completely posted.
I think you have gotten a unicorn out of that bunch of... You got the Super Mega. That's the one that actually can post.
Carrie Bullet Journal also mentioned in a comment, I think it was Carrie Bullet Journal, that she likes how it feels posted.
Oh, God.
So you're telling 2 people who are posting it, and one of the people who are posting it, showing you that it's posted, you're telling me that it can't be posted. Meanwhile, I'm showing to you...
I am telling you
it's posted.
That 100%... When I took out the pens and I played with them, I did my little thing with the I'm like, these pens do not post.
How many did you try it with?
We need to photograph these pens not posted because obviously Yaffa's off their rocker. They're putting pictures of these pens with the caps posted. They don't post. Let's rectify this. And then you're like, it posts, Tom. And I'm like, no, it does not post. It doesn't post.
I literally showed it to you posted.
No, it does not. I don't care if you could show me your piece, because you probably
How many did you try?
I tried.
How many did you try?
4 of them.
4 of them, and none of them posted.
Random. At random, picked them out, tried posting them, no work. No.
I wonder if the color makes a difference, right? So like, yeah, I don't know, because mine is the black metal trim. Yours, the one I saw in your video that you allegedly say can't be posted, even though it can be, was rose gold, right? So maybe that has something to do with it.
Yeah, but I know that's a big difference for people. I mean, I'm a poster, so if you're going to tell me that a pen cap posts and it does not post, I'm going to be upset.
It's probably safer to say it doesn't post, right?
I'm going to be, yeah, that's what I figure, because, I mean, then if it does, bonus, but you're prepared for it, just worst case scenario, it doesn't post.
I'm looking at your Instagram right now that you did with the Tango Imagination. This is related to I have not seen Stranger Things.
Well, yeah. See, that's the thing, is that you probably... I mean, but you do know the concept that there's a character in Stranger Things named 11, and she has telekinetic powers.
I don't know anything about Stranger Things. Okay. I haven't seen a single episode. The only thing I know is the spoiler at the end of the season that just finished, because I was at work, and there was 7 buddies of mine. We had some special training, and then of those 7 buddies of mine, 6 of them saw it and 1 didn't see it, and they knew that. So deliberately what they did is they waited for him to get to work, and then they had a conversation about the spoiler ending, which filled me in, which I don't really care because I don't watch the show. Maybe I'll watch it later.
This means nothing to me. I have no idea.
It means nothing to me. But you want to see a dude who is pissed off and just mad at all his buddies? That was the dude. The dude that just didn't get a chance to see it all, and then they spoiled it for him.
That is totally not cool. Totally.
Yeah, but you know what the thing is, though? Social media and everything like that, you can't avoid spoilers. How is it possible to avoid?
You can, though, because you could not go on TikTok or Instagram. But, like, when you have to go to work and you have your coworkers around you and they're talking about it and spoiling everything, you can't avoid that. Are you going to, like, run into a closet, go to the bathroom, and just stay in there the whole entire time?
But that's what I'm saying. You can't avoid spoilers.
But you can. It's just not possible. Avoid spoilers online. It's just if your so-called friends or coworkers decide to gang up on you and spoil the whole thing, that's not cool.
Yeah. Seeing as how pissed off he was, I thought it was funny, and I think everyone else did, except for him.
One thing I do want to talk about related to that is fact. So Stranger Things takes place in the 80s, and for a lot of us 80s born children, the kids of the 80s, that brings back a lot of nostalgia, because they do a lot of references to the 80s, especially through the lens of these kids that are growing up, which at this point it's 1986 and they're in high school, right?
Okay, listen, don't drop any spoilers, because I don't want anybody listening to be as pissed off.
This is basic stuff, but what they do is they infuse music into it, which I think is really ingenious. Is that it has a strong playlist of 80s, really good 80s songs that are in there, and one of them that was in the finale was Metallica's "Master of Puppets."
Good song,
and it was during a really awesome, like, badass scene that I won't spoil, but the fact that it was on there, and I know that I think we share the affinity of liking Metallica. Do we not?
I love Metallica.
Okay. But we've never talked about this before. Which I think is odd, because we talk about other things that we like, but yet we both like Metallica. Why have we not talked about Metallica before?
I don't know.
Being that this is a podcast that goes well beyond the bounds of pens and talks about movies, video games, and but yet we don't talk about Metallica. Why do we not talk about Metallica?
I suddenly am drawing a blank of the lead singer's name.
You mean, what's his name? Were
you about to say Kurt Cobain? I could see.
There's James Hetfield.
James Hetfield. So when the band first started, James Hetfield was a talented singer who didn't have any formal vocal training. So what ended up happening was he started looking into vocal training because he was told the way he's singing, if he continues singing the way he does, he'll lose his voice and he won't be able to continue a long career. So what he did was he met up with a vocal coach and he learned the proper technique and method to singing, so that way it doesn't create nodules in your vocal cords or strip your vocal cords over time. And one of the things that was really important for him were warm-up exercises and basics. And he uses the same cassette of warm-ups and exercises to warm up every single time he's about to sing. And so that actual formal training that he got changed his voice, changed the way he sounded. And there was a transition period where people were actually polarized by the difference between how he was before he got trained and how he was after. But obviously, after he got trained, it ended up being better for him because his voice and the timbre and the sonority and the quality of his voice hasn't changed since he started being trained methodically and academically in the methods of singing. That's why
now,
he is...
At what point was this that he got the training?
I can't remember which album it was. But it was literally, the difference was like this. Like, you could hear the old version in one album, and then the very next album was a new version. It was after he started getting the training. You could actually tell the difference. And people were actually like, hey, what's going on there? They were wondering. They're like, that's not Hetfield's voice. Why does he sound different? But it actually ended up for the better because look how old he is now.
Look how old they all are now. It's crazy.
But what's cool is, even though he's advanced in age, he hasn't lost his ability to sing, which can happen to a lot of people if they're not trained.
Right.
Vocal training is super important if you want to be a singer of any genre too. So, like, it doesn't just mean for rock music. Any singer needs to be trained in order for them to be able to have a long career in singing. So I think that was just interesting. Two things that have been consistent with him. He's always made sure that he focused on the preservation of his voice and using proper technique. And I think he's been married to the same person forever, right? Which doesn't typically happen for people who are rock stars
in rock and roll.
Yeah, I mean, there's always some sort of drama, and then they always split up and stuff like that. Hugh Jackman is the same way. He's been with the same wife forever. I admire that kind of stuff.
Huge Jackman.
Huge.
So I would like to know, I mean, because I didn't know the whole thing about James Hetfield's voice training, which I think was pretty cool. You know, this kind of geeky stuff, and I appreciate that. I want to know, what is your favorite Metallica album?
Probably
or where would you album. let's say if you heard it, because a lot of people, especially like your Gen Zers that watch Stranger Things, they listen to Master of Puppets for the first time and they're like, oh my god, this is amazing new music, or like, oh, it's been around for a long time, my friend. Right. Where do they, if they are bit now by this metal bug and they're like, I need to like listen to more Metallica, where would they start?
I would start with the Black Album.
Okay.
What about you?
Why that?
Because I love there's some good songs in there that I particularly love, like The Unforgiven.
Okay.
That's one of my favorite songs.
The thing is,
The Bell Tolls.
Well, that would be back on Ride the Lightning that was on.
You're right? It was. Hold on.
Yeah. But see, so there's a split, okay? So you have the first, you have Kill 'Em All, you have Ride the Lightning, Master of Puppets, then you have And Justice for All, which, I mean, I kind of bundle them all together because I think those, once you hit that period after And Justice for All and you went to the Black Album, I think that began kind of a different like stage of Metallica. And I think that what Master of Puppets represents is that old 80s Metallica that was full at like that thrash, a very upbeat, extremely like, you know, like just very metal. But then you get to the Black Album and there's a lot more, it kind of like slows down a bit, becomes more, I don't know, you could throw in all your music terminologies in it.
Well,
but,
I feel like once it got to the Black Album, the Black Album represents a different period for them where they became more introspective and more, I guess, philosophical. Mm-hmm. There was more. I feel like there was more. I wouldn't say structure, but there was definitely more. I think I want to say
maturity, maybe
maturity and composition to the actual music. Okay. Right, there was contrast in melodic structure and harmonization of the songs, right? So, like, let's say you're not paying attention to a song, and you listen to earlier Metallica. The whole thing, if you're not paying attention, can just sound like thrash, right? But if you listen to the Black Album, and let's just take my favorite song, The Unforgiven, there's segments, there's sections of the song where if you're not paying attention, it'll be easily recognizable that there's a difference in the progression of the song. You know what I'm saying? And it starts off full of energy. It starts off angry. It starts off almost kind of like, angry. And then it has that bridge moment where he's singing almost in a soft, I wouldn't say soft, but I guess a more hollow voice where he sings that whole bridge section. And I think that the variation and the contrast within the same song is more interesting. And I think it was more thought-provoking. So I think that's probably why it's one of my favorite albums.
I got you, because there is that contrast between like the heaviness and then there's kind of that very sweet, somber, and just, not, it doesn't all have to be angry. There's just
right,
there
right.
could be like that change in emotion, or just a varying degree of emotions that are experienced throughout the entire song.
Yeah, and I think it makes it more interesting, and I don't know. I really like it. I liked them more after that. I'm not really into the thrashing heavy metal music. Mm-hmm. I feel like there needs to be structure. Not saying that the earlier stuff didn't have structure, but I feel like there was more maturity. I feel like it was definitely like take the Beatles, for example, right? They came in like 1963 or 1964, and they were all the rage. They were fantastic at the formula of pop rock. I think that's what they called it at the time, right? And it was always the same formula. They did as good as anyone possibly could using that formula. But then they started changing things up. They started getting into just different harmonizations. They started experimenting with sounds that weren't really created before. Instruments from other cultures and stuff like that. So it created a different atmosphere and environment of a song. I think that was with like Rubber Soul. I think that was the first one. And after that, their ability to experiment and expand their repertoire just didn't stop growing. It just didn't stop until they couldn't stop being pissed off at each other because of in-house politics between the four members and whose girlfriend they didn't like, this, that, and the other thing and whatnot. And then they ended up splitting up, and then one got shot, and it's not a happy story. But
not a good ending.
Yeah, not a good ending.
But I mean, Paul McCartney's still kicking it, so
yeah. Considering how much drugs they did when they were young, it's amazing that they're living this long, right? George Harrison died of lung cancer, I think it was. John Lennon was shot by a bad guy, Mark Dave Chapman, I think his name was.
Yes, sounds about right.
Yeah. So,
yeah.
I mean, but the Metallica, like the Beatles, they both had this evolution throughout their career where they started off kind of finding a niche or a style. And then they take that style and they make it into something else that is unowned and not done by anybody else before. And I think I like groups like that, right?
Yeah.
like the Bee Gees and the Monkees, not that they're bad groups at all, they kind of stayed the same their entire career. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
Metallica and the Beatles, I think they are exceptional because they've evolved into something that didn't exist before. And I think it's really impressive. I think Nirvana is also something else too, because they kind of created a genre themselves. Right? What is it? Grunge? Before that, it didn't exist. But another sad story, another guy who got shot and died, but he did it to himself, though, Kurt Cobain. I mean, but I think it's fantastic when people are able to start something and evolve it into something that hasn't existed before and then create a new culture out of it, which is what I think the Beatles certainly did. Every rock group around today in the year 2022 is in some way, shape, or form, whether they know it or not, influenced by the Beatles. You know, they were just, you know, do you like the Beatles?
I do, yeah.
Yeah, I grew up listening.
That's another one that I like.
Grew up listening to the Beatles, and Abbey Road is one of my favorites. I think the most significant one, I think, like I was saying, was it Rubber Soul, that just, after a couple of albums, they just decided to throw caution to the wind, and you start seeing that. I believe it was Rubber Soul.
I'm taking a look at my playlist for Spotify so I could find which songs I have here, because I have specifically a Beatles only playlist that has some of my favorites on there. Yeah, and I think it was either Rubber Soul or Revolver that was the first one where they just decided to start changing up the formula of standard pop rock at the time. I can't remember. Yeah, I think I have mostly Rubber Soul is on here pretty heavy. Like In My Life, Nowhere Man, Norwegian Wood, I'm Looking Through You, Michelle. I like, it's a lot of good stuff that's on there.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, it's just really interesting to me that we both had those affinities in terms of music, but yet we've never had a discussion about it before here. So
yeah, no, I just never thought to talk about it because I feel like I didn't know that you had an affinity for music because you have no ability at all to carry a tune.
Oh, so. Thanks. Wow. Wow. Okay.
So I figured
just because you don't have to perform music to enjoy music.
I know. I'm just kidding. I just figured, since I don't know why we never talked about it. I'm trying to think of another way to make fun of you, but I can't. So.
But I would do is if somebody was out there and they were listening to that Master of Puppets and they were like, oh, this is, by the way, there's actually a new Diamine ink. I don't know if you're aware of this, but one of the German dealers, I think, I forget the name of it, but there's the same one that has another ink, Communication Breakdown and November Rain. They just recently introduced Master of Puppets and Hell's Bells.
Can they do that without paying Metallica?
I don't know. I mean, I know that they were pretty hard up on the whole Napster thing when that happened. Metallica was so about stealing their stuff. So I mean, but the thing is, I guess they're in Germany. This retailer. I mean, I know Diamine's in the UK. They're making this stuff. I don't know if it falls outside of copyright law if it's international. I don't know. So.
I'm curious about that.
It seems rather problematic, especially. Well, the thing is, they just released it recently, and then on top of that, if you go looking on TikTok, Master Puppets is getting really popular on TikTok, as well as that one song, that song that everybody's got. I forget the name of it right now at the moment, but "Running Up That Hill." Because that's also in Stranger Things. It's the key song that's kind of throughout the entire season. So they're pretty popular right now at the moment. And then you have an ink that's named Master of Puppets, which is, inspired, let's say, by that. And
inspired. I mean, the name is exactly the same.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But I think that I think
it's just named. It's just straight up named after the album.
Yeah, and I think the color
not
actually
inspired
somewhat
by-
mimics the color of the cover too. Like if you look at the color of the, I think the color's like a brown that has like red sheen or something, and the color of the cover is kind of like that, that sort of colorway.
I wonder if they'll get away with that. I wonder if they'll get away with that, or if Metallica does find out, what they would do. Would they just be like, oh, it's just an ink company in a niche market. It's a niche market within a niche market, so who cares, right? Like if there was a video game called Master of Puppets and like the main character is running around smashing zombies with guitars, I could see an issue with that, right? Because of how large and mainstream video games are, how accessible they are. But how much do you think that the Metallica group knows of a small ink brand? I know they're not small, but relative to the fan base of Metallica, I think the Diamine is probably small in comparison. Do you think they would go after Diamine, or do you think they would ask for like $1 for every bottle? Do you think they've already discussed this with Metallica? If they've already discussed this with Metallica, that is an excuse for me to actually make an ink just so I can get in touch with Metallica and be like, hey, I'm making an ink called James Hetfield.
They probably have a whole legal team that just does this stuff for them. They don't bother them with this kind of crap,
Yeah, it probably doesn't even go up the ladder to them. But that's what I'm saying, though. What if the legal team found out? What do you think that they would do? Do you think they would try to put a kibosh on it? Because
just
I can
the
understand.
history of like,
I mean, I can understand why somebody would want to put a kibosh on a product that is labeled something that someone else created, because it could possibly misrepresent the original creation, right? So, I mean, I can't see how an ink would misrepresent Metallica to Metallica fans, right? So how would the brown colored ink, or whatever color that Master of Puppets ink is, how would that misrepresent or harm or take away profits, if any, from Metallica, right? So like, you're not looking at profit margins for Metallica at 10 million. Then Diamine released ink, and then it's like suddenly 5 million, and then Diamine selling 5 million worth of ink. You can't. There's no way to measure that or gauge that. So even if they did find out, would they really care? I wonder. What do you think?
I don't know. That's a good question, because I don't know how you would feel about that. I would probably say, I mean, like this, as you were saying at the same time, it's like how much of a ruckus could they cause over it? Because it's not like they're taking their song and like putting it into something, or they're taking the logo, or it's just they're using the name of a song and they're putting it on an ink. I don't know if that's going to be enough for somebody to get really upset about that. If anything, maybe just say, hey, we should be getting a cut in on this sort of thing.
I see, but that's a thing, though. Let's say Diamine gave them the most generous possible cut of their cut to Metallica. Do you think Metallica would even notice? It's kind of like this. Imagine you have $100 million and someone gave you $1. Would you really care? Right?
Yeah.
So I think that's the situation. And also, if we're asking that question, let's talk about Penneider also, right? By the way, this pen, love it. The Penneider Rocco. Oh, I love this thing. I've been using this exclusively for the last two weeks because this is so much fun. Look.
Yeah, that magnetic closure when you pop the cap on, and it just does the twisty thing at the same time.
Yeah. I don't know if everybody knows. I was talking to my friend Jimmy, and I was explaining this to him. So each side has a magnet, right? There's a circular magnet on the tip of the section, and there's a circular magnet inside the cap over here. Okay? Now, the way it's designed is, let's call them donuts, right? One half of each donut is positive and negative. So when they don't line up, they push each other away. You know how when you take two magnets, the wrong ends, they push each other away?
Yep.
But if you just let go, then the positives attract each other and snap itself closed. And this becomes such a cool fidget spinner that can really piss off other people in a library. I know this is a fact because I did it while I'm reading. This helps me concentrate, but it fucks the shit out of everybody else trying to concentrate. That's for sure.
Does it do anything to the ink that's in the nib? Does it like pull? Because does it have that sort of secure connection on the nib where if you keep pulling the cap off like that or rotating the cap, does it mess with the ink inside at all?
No. What do you mean? Like, how would it mess with the ink?
Like, I know
like
some
suction-wise?
pens sometimes, if you have a slip cap type pen and you're pulling the cap off, if you're doing it repeatedly, it may start to like try to pull ink out of the nib
or cause a suction and pull out
cap.
ink. No, I haven't seen that happen. And also realize when you turn the pen to uncap it, which is how you're supposed to do it, when you turn the pen to uncap it, it's a gentle, soft push away. It does it. You'll feel it. It's really cool. And what I really love about this Penneider La Grande Bellezza Rocco, especially this red one, it's just such a deep, vibrant red made of Italian gray. It's a piston filler. It's really cool. You can disassemble the whole thing. It's not really necessary, though, but if you wanted to, you could. And I think it's such an awesome pen. I love the section. Section is very comfortable. I haven't had any problems with the nib. And it's a piston filler. And it's $275. Do you remember the
nib,
first?
Right?
Yeah, it's a steel nib. But I remember the first Penneider that came out was the La Grande Bellezza Dolomite Green. That was the first review I did on the fountain pen. And that one was like $650, maybe a little under $638.
Had a gold
maybe.
nib on it.
It had a gold
converter,
nib,
I think,
and it was a cartridge converter. And then the metal parts kind of wore away and discolored over time. But I'm still keeping that pen. I really enjoy that pen. I don't use it as often, but I really enjoy this pen here. For $278, I think it's totally, for what it is, I think it's totally awesome considering it's a Dante designation. It's a Dante design. I can't talk today because I'm reading too many words these days. But it's just really awesome. It definitely deserves my praise. I really love it. I don't post it, even though it does post. Listen to the snap when it posts. I'm going to do it again.
Oh, it snaps on there too?
Yeah, it's magnetic on the back too.
Nice.
It posts real nice. It's just a nice pen. Now, here's another thing that's different about the regular La Grande Bellezza series. If you take a look at the clip, right? I'm showing it to the camera for anybody listening and not watching. It's got the skeletal clip that Dante designed. Usually it has that quill. This one does not, so it looks really cool. I'm almost tempted to somehow get the other colors. I don't see the sense in getting the black one because it just looks, I don't know how to explain it. It doesn't look as vibrant. It kind of looks dull, but this red one is super vibrant. If I want to get another one, it's probably going to be the orange one. But this red is so vibrant and has that rock-like look to it. It's not a cracked look. It's just like a rocky look. Does that make any sense?
Yeah,
but
it does.
It's such a gorgeous pen. I love it. It's the one I've been going to. It's easy for quick taking notes because it comes right out and then you don't have to screw it back on. It just snaps back in place. It's also a great fidget spinner. And what makes it great is that it's so annoying to everybody else. Can you imagine sitting there and hearing this? Hold on, listen.
See, I don't know if that would actually bother me because I would be too infatuated with how cool that is. But it's because I know how it works and it's using magnets.
Right.
Other people could just be like, just stop making that sound now.
Right. But going back to what we were talking about when it comes to using names and stuff like that, since we're discussing how Dimine, or Dimine, however you want to pronounce it, is using Metallica's Master of Puppets name, what about the Penneider brand? And I wonder how much they can get away with. They actually have a line of the La Grande Bellezzas called Back to the Future. They have another one called the Avatar. They have another one called the Psycho, right? All these Dante named after movies.
Full Metal Jacket, too.
Yeah, Full Metal Jacket, named after Stanley Kubrick's Full Metal Jacket. Like, so, what kind of backlash could they see, if any, and have they, that you know of?
I got nothing for you on that. As
Yeah,
far as
I haven't heard
know,
anything.
They just keep continuing naming things after older movies. You know, like
Yeah.
Bellezza is also is also a reference to a movie too, but that was Italian. The Great Beauty. I don't know. It
Was
is
that a
odd
movie?
that they do choose. Yeah, I think so. I
Interesting.
got the little Jimmy Ices is coming around.
The
I
what?
just looked out my window. They got little Jimmys.
What are you talking about?
Little Jimmy Ices. It's the ice truck. Italian Ices.
Oh, you have it's a brand of Italian ices called Little Jimmy's.
It's the ice,
Okay.
the ice truck. It's got Little Jimmy's on it. There's like a little kid's face and stuff. Yeah.
As soon as you said Little Jimmy's, I thought immediately of the other guys where Will Ferrell was being like, he was like, what did he say? You best be using Jimmy's. Remember how he's like, Gator's bitches best be using Jimmy's. And then, what's her name? The actress, the insanely drop-dead gorgeous actress. I can't remember her name all of a sudden.
I haven't
Do you
seen
know
that
what I'm
movie in a
talking
while. All I remember from that is, I'm a peacock.
about? You gotta let me fly. Mark Wahlberg.
Let me fly.
Yeah.
I'm a peacock.
That's a great movie.
I had some of Mark Wahlberg's sauce on a hot dog yesterday. And of course, you have to make jokes when you're putting Marky Mark sauce on your dog. So, you know, it was just basically because it's a Wahlburgers thing. He's got the chain with his brothers with Wahlburgers. So it's like, well, you know, you could probably take a shit in a bottle and put his face on it. People would still put it all over their hot dog.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't had any of that stuff because I don't think it conforms to exactly to, you know.
Oh, I guarantee you, no, nothing would yeah. I don't think any of Marky Mark's stuff is going to conform to your keto wishes.
I wanted to talk to you about this pen here. This is your favorite brand that you are a fanboy of, and I'm holding up, for everybody listening, this is actually a Pen Chalet exclusive green Momento Zero, the spaghetti resin. It was a limited run of 250 pens. So this is like green spaghetti resin, and it has black trim, rhodium plated trim. I wanted to ask you if you've noticed something with some of the, or if anybody listening or watching has noticed anything with some of these Momento Zeros. When you go to cap the pen and you screw it on, do you notice it's not a smooth screwing in or capping? Do you notice that there's almost like rigidity to it and it's not smooth? And I was wondering if it's just the threads, because I thought to myself, if it's the threads, then over time, they'll smooth themselves out. But in the case of this, it's not, because when I take the section off, like I just did, and I screw the cap on, now it's just smooth and normal. So then I realize the section, as it's going in, is making contact with the inside of the cap, and that's what's causing the abrasion and the roughness. And it's not smooth. This is not the first one this has happened to me with when it comes to the Momento Zeros. It happened several times. I do find it really annoying, and I just wanted to know if anybody listening or watching has experienced that with any Momento Zeros that they had. And if they did, please write in at pentertainmentpodcast@gmail.com and let me know. So again, I'm going to demonstrate and explain at the same time, since some people aren't watching. When the whole pen is assembled and uncapped, I go to cap it and I rotate it into the cap, and it just feels like it's just rough. It's not smooth. It's like almost there's resistance. And then if I unscrew the section and then screw the barrel onto the cap and cap it, it's just smooth like it should be and normal. So I'm noticing, like I said, I feel like the section could have been polished more and just like 1/10 of a millimeter less in diameter, and it wouldn't happen. So everybody who has a Momento Zero,
I'm completely 100% transparent with you in saying that is the first time that I've heard of such a thing when it comes to a Momento Zero having that.
Or my question is to you also, maybe it has happened and you just didn't notice it or care. Do you think that's possible?
I don't think so.
Would you have noticed?
I would.
I mean, it's very subtle. It's.
Did you notice on the Waldmann Tango Imagination, when you unscrew the barrel from the grip section, and you pull out the converter, that it makes
contact inside?
The tolerance in there is so precise.
Yeah.
That you're pulling out that converter, and it makes a vacuum sort of like little pop sound.
Yes.
Do you have that on yours?
Yes.
You feel that little slight bit of resistance from like the vacuum being created from you taking it out?
Yes. So at first I thought
Isn't
it was
awesome?
it's also kind of I guess, rubbing the inside of the barrel, also the metal part of the converter.
Slightly, yeah.
Slightly. And then as it makes contact, it creates that vacuum that you're talking about.
Yeah.
Does it do that with the rollerball refills?
No, I don't think so. Not with the rollerball.
No.
But I think for because I had opened up and checked out 2 fountain pens, and they both did that. I was like, that is, like, I think to some people, like you said, like it could, like, you could have the converter be hitting the sides of the wall of the pen, but I'm like, this is impressive that they got it this exact, that it makes that kind of like that little poppy sound or whatever.
I do know what you're talking about.
But see, that's what I'm saying, is that I notice these things, I observe, but that Momento Zero thing was not something I've observed. So
maybe it was just the Pen Chalet exclusive batch that is like that and none else. I can't imagine that that's the case. I mean, if it happened to one, I can't be the only one. I want to say about 1.5 years, 2 years ago, maybe.
It looks a lot like that's the alga seaweed, or it just has black trim as opposed to the. It looks very similar to that.
It's probably the same thing, just with black trim. Oh. And that's how Ronnie was able to make it an exclusive. I want to talk about something else too, which is really cool. You know this pen here, the carrot. I'm holding up an orange. Yeah, I call it a carrot. I'm holding up an orange Diplomat Arrow, which I adore. This capping is also another one that is just so fun, just to snap it in, and that little snap is just so satisfying. But not just that. You know what else is satisfying about this pen? And only someone with severe OCD would know, or someone with a severe passion for fountain pens. I love doing this. Watch this. Well, got to get a good spin on it. So if you unscrew the barrel and then point the section and nib down, straight up and down, and then you spin the barrel, it'll sometimes it just spins on its own really fast and then makes a dead stop when it hits the section. It's just super well machined.
And on top of that, it makes that really cool tinkling sound that you're hearing too. Is that the metal on metal?
I love it.
And that's the same thing with Waldmann. It's just when you get a solid metal pen like that, it's like we kind of forget about how this stuff can be if you just have resin pens all the time. But like the metal pens just have that extra little bit, kind of like the difference between having a normal Bic lighter and a SD Dupont lighter, where you have that special ping when you flip open the cover. It's like that ping sound, like opening it. It's just when you have that little bit of extra something, it just adds to the experience.
Yeah, I know a guy. He's an older guy. He's in his late 60s, and he had the same ST Dupont lighter that he's had for almost like 40 years or something like that. And he showed it to me. He also has a really cool automatic pocket watch that's over 100 years old. He must, he obviously bought it secondhand, but it's really well taken care of. There's like no scratches. It looks like it were brand new, but it's actually 100 years old, this pocket watch. I'll show it to you later. I took a picture of it, but he has this ST Dupont lighter.
ST Dupont.
And it's like 40 years old, and you can tell that it's well worn. It's been in his life for that long, because it's kind of worn looking, but it's still beautiful. And then when he handed it to me, just the feeling of density and weight to the ST Dupont lighter made me feel as though this lighter would certainly last another 100 years if properly maintained, if it's not being thrown around into the street and stuff like that. But he also has like a leather case that's made by ST Dupont that's also as old as the lighter. That shit lasts a good amount of time. Those fuckers at Coles of London, they're not messing around. When Jonathan Lane was talking to me about the ST Dupont stuff, and he was talking to me about lighters, one, I didn't really care because I don't smoke cigars or cigarettes, and I don't need a lighter. But if I were to have a lighter, I always thought to myself, I want a Zippo, right? Because Zippo is the one everybody knows about. Right. But then when I saw my friend's ST Dupont that's 40 years old, it's weird. I almost wanted an ST Dupont lighter, but I almost wanted like that one, not a brand new one. You know what I mean? But then I realized there's no point in having his, even though it's really old, and that's what appeals to me. Is that he's held on to it this long, that it's, to him, I guess, something that he could pass down. And I mean, I don't know how do you pass down a lighter to a kid, to your family members. Like, you're kind of like, hey, when you start smoking, here you go. I mean, I don't think that's, I think you're
or when you need to light birthday candles or fireworks,
right,
or that's pretty much it.
Right. So, like, the thing is, I don't have a need for a lighter
Yankee candles.
ever. Right. But if I did have a lighter, I would want an ST Dupont lighter. And so I have a good friend of mine. His name is George, and he's in pharmaceuticals.
I met George, right?
Oh yeah, that's right.
Same
You
George?
were a couple. Yep, that same George. So on his 49th birthday, I believe it was, or it might have been his 48th birthday. I can't remember. It was his birthday. I bought him a ST Dupont Line 2, the one with the Urushi lacquer on it, lighter. Now, he has like a handful of his own, but he really loved this one. It had like a guilloche pattern on it, and it was lacquered. It was beautiful. And when you open it, bing, it would do that, which was really cool too. So obviously I reached out to Coles of London. If I'm going to buy ST Dupont, I'm going to get it straight from the source. You know what I mean? And that's where I got it from. But he really enjoys that lighter. And, I got him that because he's a very good friend. I didn't handle it that much, because when I received it from Coles of London, I thought to myself, you know what? I don't want to handle it too much because it's not mine. I want it to be George's, and I want it to be brand new. So I kind of just looked at it, inspected it with 2 fingers, and didn't want to touch it, get my fingerprints on it. I was wearing gloves also. And then I put it back in, and that was it. And I didn't really get
I just
to
imagine you
admire.
saying like 2 fingers. You're like, look at this.
So I didn't really get to admire it, or an ST Dupont lighter for that matter. Even at the show, when we were at the DC Pen show, Coles of London had ST Dupont lighters there. I didn't really handle them because they're of no use to me. They're of no interest to me either, right? Nobody's going to collect lighters and then never use them. So I didn't really handle it. The first time I actually really handled an ST Dupont lighter and was able to appreciate it was my friend, the one that I was telling you that's over 65 years old, and he's had it for 40 years. When he handed it to me and I was looking at it, it's almost like when he handed me the lighter, he handed me, I guess, a chapter of his life. And that was the significance of that lighter for him to have it and when he handed it to me. So I was thinking to myself, I really don't have anything that I own or possess of that much significance, right? So,
Really?
Yeah. I mean, think about it. Other than my 14 karat gold Haynes flute. But the difference there is, I guess there's not much of a difference. I guess the difference there is that lighter is the one lighter that he has. It's the one lighter that he's had, and he has no intention of replacing it. It goes with him everywhere. That item becomes special to somebody. And I don't know, it just has value to that person more than anybody else. Like, if I offered him $2,000 for that lighter, he wouldn't take it. If you offered him $5,000 for that lighter, he wouldn't take it, right? So it's irreplaceable because that lighter is his lighter. The wear on it is the story of his life. The wear for 40 years is essentially documentation of his life that's written in a language that no one else but him can read. And I think that's what makes it so significant. For
That is
me,
very poetic.
I'm really impressed with myself. Dude, I tell you all the time, I got good words. But for me, the most valuable thing that I have in my life, the most valuable object, is my 14 karat gold Haynes flute. Now, let's say tomorrow it gets stolen, right? Or goes missing. Right. It's insured, so I'll just buy another one with the insurance money. You know what I mean? And
are they making them still?
Yeah, sure. You can go to williamshaynes.com or williamshaynesflutes.com.
Do they have a coupon code?
They don't. Good luck with that one.
Oh.
Yeah. So now they're a little bit more than it was when I got mine. but, they're handmade in Boston, Massachusetts. The tone holes, the chimneys that the keys close on top of, the tone holes and the keys and the mechanism is all sterling silver. The tubing is all solid 14 karat rose gold. But when they put those little chimneys on the body of the flute, it has to be done by hand. They have to solder it on cleanly and make sure that there's no air escaping. So, just for everybody's edification, when making a flute, there's two types of tone holes. There's what's called drawn tone holes, and then there's what's called soldered tone holes. So drawn tone holes, basically what they do is instead of just cutting out the tone holes that the chimneys are going to sit on the barrel of the flute, they actually draw out the chimneys and then roll it out. And you can tell because if you look at the tone holes, you'll see at the top of the tone hole where the key comes down on top of, it rolls over. So those are rolled tone holes. Soldered tone holes, they just cut out the hole. Then they take a separate piece of metal, and then it gets molded, and then they have to solder it on with super precision. So drawn tone holes you'll see on your lower end instruments. You'll see on the instruments that I would say cost under 10 grand. Pretty much every instrument under 10 grand is gonna have drawn tone holes. And then I think everything handmade and up above 10 grand is definitely going to have soldered tone holes. So, yeah, it's an expensive hobby, but the hobby doesn't.
Well, that's why you only have one of those. You don't have multiples.
So the hobby doesn't include the hobby of like flute playing does not incorporate collection of flutes either, unless you're James Galway or somebody like that who's got probably dozens of handmade gold flutes in his collection. I think the most famous flute player that ever lived, his name is Jean-Pierre Rampal, and he passed away in 1996. His very first instrument was made by Louis Lott, and it was stolen, and I don't think it was ever recovered. But then he wanted to buy a gold handmade flute. The whole thing was gold, including the keys, the tone holes, everything was made of gold. And at the time when he had it made, the Haynes Flute Company knew that this guy was broke. He's not going to be able to afford $2,500. At the time, it was $2,500, which is, I wish I could travel back in time and then just, here's cash, give me a flute. But they knew that he wasn't going to be able to afford it. And they said to themselves, they said, we need him to have this flute because this guy is so good. He's going to put our name out there like you wouldn't believe. So they just gave it to him. And Jean-Pierre Rampal was a super modest person. He wasn't extravagant. He doesn't have like 10 dozen flutes. He actually used that flute exclusively for many years until he was wealthy enough to get a second instrument. And that second instrument was also a William S. Haynes gold flute. So he had, before he passed away, he was playing on 2 William S. Haynes flutes. There's actually, I think, what was it? In 2006, there was a celebration of Rampal's death or something like that. And they made an exclusive William S. Haynes Rampal edition flute. It was like $36,000. It was like the whole thing, or maybe it was like 42. I can't remember. And that's why I got the sterling silver keys and tone holes, because I didn't have 40 grand to spend on it.
Now, is there any point to, I mean, like you see with fountain pens, it's kind of like standard practice to have a multitude of them, and they can be in various nib sizes, filling mechanisms, colors, whatnot. Is there any point to having like a whole mess of flutes other than the whole collecting aspect of it? Is there like a practicality sort of thing? Do you see a lot of flautists having multiple flutes?
I'll see some people with 2, right? Like I have 2. One is completely made of sterling silver. One is made of the gold with the sterling silver keys and tone holes. I don't see people with like 3. I don't see normal people. Of course, you have your celebrity musicians like James Galway. He has like dozens. And I remember when he met Michael Bloomberg, the mayor of New York City, when James Galway was visiting, he gave Bloomberg one of his gold flutes. And I'm thinking to myself, this fucking guy is not even going to play it. Give me that shit. Right? I'll play it for the rest of my life. But James Galway was a big backer of a brand called Muramatsu. It's a Japanese instrument. They make fantastic instruments also. There wouldn't be a need to have several instruments. I know some people, they have maybe a couple of different head joints that they put in and out made of different precious metals, but I can't see the need because every instrument is handmade, so every instrument is going to sound slightly or feel slightly different to the player. So it's kind of like you just find the one that really suits your voice and you stay with that one. So I find
how does one try $10,000, $30,000 flutes and can know like this one's better suited towards my particular playing style?
So the way it was done when I was buying my instrument back in the day, which was a long time ago, the internet wasn't really that big of a thing. So you weren't shopping online. You would actually go, so several ways. Kind of like a pen show, you'd go to the New York Flute Convention or whatever flute convention in whatever state that is there. Because just like
there are flute conventions.
Yep, it's at the Jacob Javits Center. And is it at the Javits Center? I can't remember where it was. But there would be flute conventions in every state in the country, just like there's a fountain pen show in every state in the country throughout the year. You can go to the shows and you can try instruments from all the different vendors. There's independent makers, there's retailers, the same like a fountain pen show. You go there, there's a whole shitload of alcohol swabs. Like,
yeah, well, my next question was going to be, I know with fountain pens, like people can handle fountain pens, and I mean this post-COVID or COVID, whatever, this era of after this COVID issue has started, that like I could just imagine what it must be like to be like, oh, we're going to a flute convention. Prepare to put your mouth where everybody's put their mouth.
Yeah,
before.
Even before COVID, if you're a vendor and you're not stacked with boxes of wipes, you're not prepared. But there would just be boxes of alcohol wipes, and they would just, every time someone tried it, they would wipe it down, and then before they give it to someone to try, they would wipe it down. You know what I mean? So you would go to shows like that. You would try many different. I don't think that's the optimal way to do it because there's a lot of noise, a lot of people playing instruments and stuff like that. So can you really hear the fine nuances of each and every instrument? You can probably feel the difference first before you can hear the difference because of all the noise there. The other way to do it is if there's like a local flute retailer or workshop, because every retailer will have a workshop. Every flute exclusive retailer will have a workshop. And you can make an appointment and go there. And obviously, before you go there, you're going to discuss with the vendor or the retailer what you're looking for, how much you're able to spend, what kind of instruments you're into and stuff like that. So by the time you get there, there'll be a huge like conference table with flute stands. They look like pegs, stay straight up and down, and you just slide the flute on it so it stands straight up and down with dozens of flutes. And then you try all of them. And you don't just try one, put it down, try one, put it down, try one. No, you try all of them for several hours. Then you knock out the ones you certainly don't want. Then you try all of them again, and it's just a tournament bracket until you get down to the last two. That could take days, sometimes weeks, before you've come to an instrument. Because listen, it's a commitment, especially if you're buying something gold, or even like a sterling silver instrument. Sterling silver, you're looking at about $12,000.
It's like buying a car.
Almost.
It's expensive.
And on top of that, you have to be connected with that instrument. You have to love it. Because if you don't love it, you just spent $12,000 on an instrument. So, yeah, you got to take your time. You got to play stuff. You got to play stuff you're good at, you're bad at. You got to play chromatic scales. You got to just everything. You got to be in touch with that instrument. And then that's how you could buy it. Now, the other way now, which is more, I think, probably more feasible for people, is through the mail. So you'll request a couple of instruments.
Like a Warby Parker, they just send you like, $30,000 flutes in the mail, and you just play them all.
Well, I don't know what the limitation is, but I think like right now, if I were buying an instrument, I would request, let's say, a gold Muramatsu, a gold Haynes, and a gold Powell brand, right? So, and then they would send them to me. Of course, they'd secure some sort of like deposit or credit card number or something like that, right? Because that's almost 100 grand right there in flutes. I'm not buying one, but I'm saying if I were, then that's how I would do it. They would send it to me, insured, shipping, and all that stuff, and you would try them out, and then if you like one and you don't like another, you send them back. If you like one, then you purchase the one that you have. That seems like to be what most people do nowadays. I think, I don't know, I haven't been in the industry for a long time, but I can certainly say that if I were buying one now, I would opt to find a dealer or a retailer. I would go there and I would try the instruments in person, even if I have to spend the whole day there, because I don't know, I just feel, And then also when you select a retailer, it also has a lot to do with how well they are at their workshop too, because these instruments, they have pads under the keys, and those pads are made of sometimes synthetic materials, sometimes they're made of natural materials, but they're not solid objects. They're pads, right? So over time, as the keys are closing, humidity changes, temperature changes, those pads can warp, and that warp in the pad will create an opening on that tone hole. And if there's a slight opening in the tone hole, maybe the note won't speak or it'll be out of tune or something like that. So you have to also consider who you're buying from when you're buying an instrument, because you need to know that when an adjustment needs to be made, or if there's some sort of maintenance, that they are good at what they're doing. You know what I mean? Now,
I really hope that when you invest such a high amount in a flute, you come back to that same retailer workshop. Do you like buy a service plan, or is it just assumed that I bought the flute, you're going to be able to tune it or to do the maintenance on it for me? Or is that you have to pay every time you do something like that?
It depends, right? So like, let's say I bought a new instrument from retailer A, and it's a Gold Haynes, and I pay 45 grand for it. And then two months later, because it's a new instrument, the pads are new, it causes an opening, and the pad becomes slightly compressed, and it creates an unsealment within the pad and the tone hole. I'm going to take it back and be like, hey, listen, this needs an adjustment. They're going to do it for free, right? Now, let's say...
You're going to make them do it for free.
No, they typically do it for free. It's just an adjustment.
Okay.
And then what would happen was they'd give me a loaner also, if that's my only instrument. Now, let's say a year goes by and I want to do just maintenance. I need to make sure all the pads are checked. I need to make sure all the rods and pins and stuff like that are resealed. I need to change the corking in the head joint. Then you got to pay for that kind of maintenance, right? So there's that. But it's not like...
This has been a very highly musically inclined episode.
I know, right? Another can of buble.
No, that's pretty cool, because I mean, it kind of has a similar vibe to pens, being that it's an instrument. They both share that aspect. You do creative things with it, artistic things. Yeah, and they could be quite expensive.
Yeah,
there's shows for it. So it's a very similar sort of vibe about it.
I'm still waiting on our good friend Ryan W. to send me some footage of his daughter playing the flute. We have to decide if she needs an upgrade, right? Yeah. So where I say don't buy flutes, if you're serious about playing flutes, don't go to Sam Ash. I wouldn't go to Sam Ash because they're not, I don't want to say professionals, but they're kind of a jack of all trades of musical instruments, but they're masters at nothing when it comes to musical instruments. And what I'm saying is, I'm not saying that they're not competent at what they do. I'm saying if they needed to strip an entire flute down and they needed to replace all the pads or do adjustments, I don't think they're as competent as if you went to, for example, I don't know, Cincinnati Flute Works or the New York Flute, I think, Center in New York City, or the Jeff Weissman Music Company. Those guys are legit. All they do and their entire craft and lives is that instrument, right? And I say the same goes for if you're buying an oboe or a clarinet. Go to a specialist who sells clarinets specifically. Now, if you're buying
just like if you want a pen, you go to a pen specialist.
Right. So that's right. Going to Sam Ash is the same as going to Staples to buy a fine fountain pen. you're going to Staples. You're not going to get it there. You want to get a fine instrument, you have to go to a specialist, just like with fountain pens. You know what I mean? And I recommend the same when it comes to every other instrument, like a clarinet or an oboe, things like that. You got to find a specialist. You can't just go to some
I was recently at Staples. I only saw one fountain pen. It was a Waterman Allure.
Really? They have Waterman?
Yeah, there was one on the shelf.
Yeah, there was a brand at Staples, and I can't remember the name. I think it was like started with an F, Franklin or something.
Oh, Franklin Covey?
Yeah, Franklin Covey.
That's actually one that they distributed. They used to make them from Cross. Cross made them.
Oh, okay. They look similar to Cross too. Also, they had some Parker Jotter fountain pens. They were hitting people over the head.
I saw the ballpoints there, but I did not see fountain pens.
I saw the fountain pens. They were hitting people over the head. It was like $29.99. I'm like, get the fuck out of here with that markup, retail price markup. But you know what I did find at Staples for like a couple of bucks, and I was there. I just for shits and giggles, I got it. I got this bad boy right here.
Oh, the B2P.
Yeah, this is the B2P. Is something I have to see before I buy it. I don't care if it's only a couple of bucks. I looked at it and I was like, oh, okay, you know what? I'll pick it up. It's here. It was like, I can't remember what it was. I might have overpaid for it. It had two, and I think it was like $7.
A couple of bucks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, that's cool. It looks like the water bottle. We just spoke about this, you and I, on a couple episodes ago. So I picked it up. I haven't used it yet, but I picked it up because I was thinking, you know what? It looks like a water bottle. I like the concept of recycling water bottles into fountain pens. But here's what disappointed me about it. I think I told you this. The pen, as I'm showing you, it has like the ridges similar to a water bottle, right?
A water bottle.
Yeah. So that's that. They did that deliberately. So when I held the pen is hard as any plastic pen you could hold. Like it's not at all flimsy. It's solid, right? I was hoping for the whole pen to be as flimsy as a water bottle. Like, you know how I can squeeze this water bottle and make it like crunch and crinkle and stuff? I was hoping that it was just going to be a water bottle.
That thing's going to be like a, it's going to be like a piece of chewed up plastic. By the
I
end
just
of the
thought
day.
it would be funny if they used the same plastic width as a water bottle in the B2P. I think that would be cool. Sure, it'll probably get crushed, bent, and then cause pen leaks, but I'm not thinking practically. I'm just thinking about what it would be like if it was that way, and I thought it was funny. Like, I have a 2-pack, and one's still in the pack. I had this for a couple of weeks, haven't used it yet. Why? When I have the Penneider La Grande Bellezza Rocco, or
the Rocco Red,
or the Waldmann Tango Imagination Dark Teal. Why do they call it the Tango?
Because you dance with it. You dance across the page with the Tango.
Is that the official statement from Waldmann, or are you making that shit up?
That's my interpretation. That's all.
I just wonder where they come up with some of these names. But I got to tell you,
Like the manager.
yeah.
Let me speak to your manager.
But why is that one called the
hello,
manager?
pen.
What
I
pen
don't
is that?
know. This is the Leonardo Momento Zero Grande with the Brooks acrylic. I was writing some notes about this awesome discussion topics we've been having.
Yeah.
So
So, listen, we got to start wrapping this up. But before we go, hold on a second. You texted me. It's been laggy. You're not laggy. When did you text me that?
Oh no, so I was trying to get in before, and it was taking me a while because it just was not loading the page or something. So
I see. But I wanted to advise everybody that next week we're going to have a guest on the show, and the guest is going to be one Michal Kulka from he's a Polish dude who has his own pen shop, and that pen shop is on Instagram. They are known as, hold on a second, I'm going to tell you in a second. Hold on a second, I got to find the message because I forgot the name of his company. Help me out here if you already know.
I don't know. No, I do not.
So Michael Kulka.
I do not know the name.
Yeah, he is the owner of a pen company. And the pen company, believe it or not, does a whole bunch of cool shit, such as Urushi lacquer and stuff like that.
Yes.
So actually, how I got in touch with him is, man, I can't find it. Hold on a second. I got to find the message because it's interesting. he actually is a listener of the podcast. Sweet. And what happened was, where did I get that from? What happened was he was listening to the podcast. We were talking about urushi lacquer, and I was saying some shit that he thought was that needed more elaboration, explanation and stuff. And he is an expert in this urushi lacquer stuff. So we were, cool. Yeah. Okay, here we go.
Because we were talking about like the layers, and we were saying like platinum had like 7 layers, and we're like, oh well, how many can Pilot have to justify the increase in cost for their Namiki Emperors or the Yukaris? So yeah, that'd be really cool to get a perspective of somebody who actually does the urushi.
Yeah. So he is on Instagram at Tamenuri_studio. So that's TAMENURI_studio, common spelling. And he's the owner of Tamenuri pens. So what this dude does is he makes a whole bunch of urushi lacquer pens. They look really fantastic. So he was telling me like, oh, you know, I have a lot of answers if you want to know them when it comes to urushi lacquer. So let me know. So I'm like, hey, let's get you on the show. So he was up for it. Just so everybody knows, it was supposed to be today, but I fucked that up because I had such a busy last couple of weeks, which is why I had to take the week off, and I dropped the ball on that one. So we rescheduled him to next week. So next week you're going to have him on the show. You're going to have him on the channel. You guys can watch it or listen to it, whichever is your preferred way of consuming the Pentertainment Podcast episodes. They're available on YouTube and all your favorite podcasting apps. So he's going to be on next week from across the pond. What is that used for? Is that for when we're talking about Europe, or is that just when we're talking about any body of water?
I guess you could apply it to any body of water, but usually it means over the Atlantic.
Well, it's definitely over the Atlantic if he's in Europe, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So it's okay?
Yeah.
All right. You're not going to lose sleep over it?
It works for me.
All right. Sounds good. So check out Tamenuri_studio. Check him out on Instagram, and we're going to have him on the show next week. And thanks again.
I just gave him a follow. I did not realize I did not follow this workshop here. I just gave him a follow.
Yeah, so. It looks good. He has a lot of cool looking pens. So I'm not sure which one is actually him in the picture where there's 3 dudes standing, or 4 if you count the photo bomber. I'm not sure which one is him. But
the photo bomber?
Yeah, you see the Dutch pen show.
I think it's based on the profile picture. I'm thinking the one on the right.
Okay.
With the Japanese piece of artwork on his shirt.
Yeah. So he's Polish, and a big fan of Johanna Jędrzejczyk, which I am too, except for her last performance. I'm glad she retired. I think she's done, but she made her mark, and it's time to move on. It's great. A lot of respect for her.
Was this MMA? I'm not up on it.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Looks amazing in a dress and heels. I think she should be a model now instead of fight, because after a certain point in time, I think the shelf life of a fighter just diminishes and stuff. So, but anyway,
I think you should be a model after you're finished doing what you're doing. After you're finished with your test, you should be a model
for a magazine called At Least He Tried, right? So anyway,
you should be a model for because like I think there should be more like human interaction in the pen world. Like show, instead of just showing the pens on a desk, there should be a model holding the pen and looking incredibly sexy while doing it.
I think they can do better than me. I'll be honest with you.
I think they can find someone. I think that you are perfect for this.
Well, hey, listen, Absolutely. Man. Let's start it. Let's get it going. Cut me a check, and I'll model for Goldspot.
All right. Well, we're going to start with nudes first.
Okay.
So
of course. What else were you expecting? I wasn't expecting clothes on. You get out of here. Drop that noise. Anyway, thanks everybody for joining us for episode number 129. Thanks again for listening or watching, whatever it is that you're doing. Love you guys. Be well. Be safe.
Stay inky.